Most advisor training violates how adults learn. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever attended a webinar, sat through a conference session, or completed continuing education only to realize a week later that almost nothing actually changed? Most advisors have. And it's not because they're bad learners. It's because most advisor training violates how adults actually learn. The industry continues to treat experienced professionals as if they're empty vessels waiting to be filled with information. But if you've been serving clients for 5, 10, 15 years, information isn't your problem. The problem is something much deeper. And once you understand it, you'll see advisor education very differently. The core problem isn't missing information. Experienced advisors already possess enormous amounts of knowledge. They've sat through thousands of meetings, seen market cycles, worked through client crises, made difficult decisions, observed patterns. The problem is that most of that value remains trapped. The industry suffers from four things: undocumented expertise, undefined value, invisible judgment, and what I call unarticulated alpha. The advisor has value. The advisor simply hasn't learned how to extract it, define it, and demonstrate it. The failure of the information first model. Traditional education follows a very predictable sequence: information, memorization, testing. Whether it's CE, CFP coursework, compliance training, product education, or even AI workshops, the model is largely the same. The assumption is that more information creates better professionals. But for experienced advisors, that's often backwards. The result is temporary understanding. The advisor leaves thinking, interesting, but behavior never changes. Traditional training is designed to deposit information into a system that actually requires extraction. This is where adult learning theory becomes important. Adults learn differently than children. Adults don't learn because they need more information. Adults learn because they need greater clarity. Learning works best when there's a clear reason, an immediate problem, a connection to existing experience, self-direction, immediate application, and respect for what the learner already knows. When we look at most advisor education through that lens, it's easy to see why so much of it gets forgotten. This leads to one of the most important ideas in Own Your Alpha. Experience must precede expertise. Most education tries to move directly from expertise to application, but adults learn differently. The sequence is experience, reflection, meaning, expertise before we ask advisors what they know. We should ask, what do you believe? What have you experienced? What patterns have you observed? What do you stand for? The goal isn't information transfer. The goal is self-discovery. Another challenge is cognitive overload. Most professional education overwhelms working memory. 30-minute videos, 40-minute webinars, 60-slide decks. The result is predictable. Learn, 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 forget. Own Your Alpha takes a different approach. Short lessons, immediate application, one behavioral rep, then action. Because information is only useful when it changes behavior. The rep is the teacher. This may be the most important slide in the entire presentation. Most advisor education stops at watch video, take notes, move on. But that's not where learning happens. Learning happens during the rep. The advisor watches, performs, reflects, applies, measures, adjusts, then repeats. The friction created by action is what transforms information into capability. The rep becomes the teacher. At this point, something important happens. The advisor stops consuming knowledge and starts extracting it. Years of experience enter the process. Behavioral reps force reflection. Reflection creates clarity. Clarity reveals value, and value begins transforming into tangible alpha. This is the shift from passive student to active architect. The curriculum follows a very deliberate progression. First, discover alpha, purpose, principles, beliefs, experiences. Then define alpha: philosophies, opinions, position of value, expertise. Then demonstrate alpha: judgment, execution, connection, evidence. And finally, scale alpha: content, AI, systems, distribution. Every stage builds on the one before it. There are certain laws that cannot be violated. You cannot scale something you haven't defined. You cannot define something you haven't discovered, and you cannot demonstrate something you haven't defined. Yet, this is exactly where most advisors begin. They jump directly to content, social media, marketing, or AI, without first clarifying the value they're trying to amplify. This is where Own Your Alpha separates itself from most AI education. Most programs teach AI literacy, how to use tools, write prompts, automate tasks. Own Your Alpha follows a different sequence: advisor self discovery, advisor self expression, AI amplification. The technology comes last because AI cannot amplify a value that hasn't been defined. So here's the entire thesis. Traditional advisor education starts with information, moves through knowledge, ends with testing. The result is temporary understanding. Own Your Alpha starts with experience, moves through reflection, definition, demonstration, repetition, and ultimately tangible alpha. The goal isn't simply learning. The goal is lasting behavioral change, because the future belongs to advisors who can identify, articulate, demonstrate, and amplify the value they already possess. That's what it means to own your alpha. If you're an advisor who feels like you've built more value than the market currently recognizes, if you know your expertise is greater than your visibility, and if you're trying to figure out how to use AI without becoming dependent on it, Own Your Alpha was built for you. Because before you can scale your value, you have to define it. And before you can define it, you have to discover it. It's time to own your alpha.